What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Worst Favorite Record podcast, where we talk to people about bad records that they love anyway. I'm Jason. If you don't know, I'm one of three hosts on the Taste Like Music YouTube channel. Over there, we rank full discographies, we review new records and stuff like that. This is a little bit of a spinoff from that. And today, I am joined by a very special guest, Ron Gallo. How you doing?
I am good. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for doing this.
I'm pumped.
Before we get into the record that we're here to talk about, you have a new record coming out soon. You want to let people know about that quickly?
Yeah, it actually comes out 1 month from today. It's called Foreground Music. Um, yeah, I don't know what else to say about it. Five of the songs are already out, and it's coming out on a label called Kill Rock Stars. And yeah, I guess it's a noisy, chaotic assessment of the existential crisis of the last few years. I think that's probably the best way to sum it up.
Well, I've been checking out some of the tracks that are out already. Really cool stuff. And I was watching the video today for At Least I'm Dancing. And there's a quick little piece of that video where you are dancing in front of a restaurant I used to work at.
What?
Yeah, the Bainbridge Street Barrel House,
No.
which is now closed at Sixth and Bainbridge.
So you're a Philly boy.
I lived there for 3 years, from 2015 to 2018.
I'm sorry about that. Sorry to hear that.
I loved it.
Oh, okay, that's good.
Yeah, it was like second home, basically.
That's awesome. No, I'm always curious people's feelings about Philadelphia that are not from here because I'm used to it, but a lot of people that either move here from other places or visit here are like, what's up with that place? What's up with those people? So I'm glad to hear you had a positive time. That's great.
Yeah, we loved it. We lived in that area, general vicinity. I worked at Bridget Foy's, if you know that place. It's
Yeah.
Second and South, and then
Yeah.
it burned down in 2017, and I moved up the street to the Barrel House. And yeah, it was a great time in Philly. I loved it. If our family wasn't in here in Pittsburgh, we probably would have moved back there actually instead of here.
Queen Village is one of my favorite neighborhoods in Philly, so you were in a good area.
You're from there originally, I take it.
South Jersey, but I moved here I went to Temple and I lived here for 10 years before Nashville, and then I've been back for 2 years. So I guess most of life has been in Philly proper.
Cool. All
Yeah.
right. Well, I'm excited to hear the full record when it finally drops. You're hitting the road too a little. I see some shows in April.
Yeah, April, like US East Coast, and then we go to Europe for a month in May, and then we'll do more US stuff in the fall, but it begins, I guess.
Exciting times. So thanks for taking the time out of all the prep for that stuff and to do this. And
Happy.
today we are talking about a record that we've talked about a little bit on the Taste Like Music channel. It was an entry in our March Badness tournament of the worst records of all time.
Yes.
It is one of my least favorite records that I've ever heard. So I'm interested to see exactly where you're coming from with this. We're talking about Lulu. It should be said, Lou Reed and Metallica collaborative album from 2011, 12, something like that.
Doesn't even matter. Time.
Timeless. Uh, so I think there's a couple different categories of records that could apply to this particular show. One is records that you can kind of like see the badness in, but enjoy anyways. Maybe they're funny to you. You get some ironic enjoyment from them. It could be a record that you just legitimately think is amazing and can't understand why other people don't like it. It could also just be kind of like a worst of an artist. So where does this land for you? I don't think it's been clarified to me yet, so I don't exactly even know for sure.
God, I don't even know. I guess there's definitely a humor and an irony to it, which is that aspect comes probably more from Lou Reed's role in this. Like, it's really confusing why he would even collaborate with Metallica. Uh, and so there's a part of me that likes to think that it's also the last record he ever made. So there's a part of me that likes to believe that this is kind of an inside joke for him too. So there's that element, but honestly, it's unlistenable. It's like it is the worst shit but there's a humor to it. Like it's this record sounds like Lou Reed doing slam poetry in a Guitar Center, which is kind of the best image I can think to describe this album. And I don't know, there's just a lot of conceptual things about that that's hilarious, but I don't know that. But then there's you know how things like they kind of start as a joke and then it becomes like a regular part of your life. I feel like there's a couple songs in this that kind of happened with as well. So I don't even know. It's definitely terrible. There's definitely humor, but there's also some weird uh enjoyment in some of it as well.
I can see that. I've listened to the record several times now. Back when we were doing when I think I listened to it when it first came out, and then I listened to it when we did the tournament, and I kind of skimmed through it again for this. And it's bad, but there is like something about it that makes you think about it a lot. Like it's very interesting and like how did this happen? Why did this happen? What exactly is this? So I think there is kind of a complexity to it in some ways.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. And this is why I go back to the Lou Reed. Maybe it's an inside joke for him because there's some shit that happens, like in the opening track, Brandenburg Gate. The opening line to the record is over a shittily strummed acoustic guitar. I would cut my legs and tits off when I think of Boris Karloff and Kinski in the dark of the moon. So that's just Lou Reed's like deep voice talking over acoustic guitar chords. And then Metallica comes in. They sound like fucking, it sounds like Guitar Center. It sounds like 50 kids playing a different song, messing around on trying instruments at Guitar Center. And then James Hetfield just starts screaming, "Small town girl," just over and over and over again over terrible music. And then Lou Reed just doing like what sounds like slam poetry. And I don't know. Like I can see Lou Reed. I could see James Hetfield recording those vocals and Lou Reed just being like, "Yeah, James, really cool, keep going." But in the back of his mind, being like, "This is the worst fucking thing that's ever happened," and kind of like winking, sort of breaking the fourth wall. And then he died like shortly thereafter. I think so. It's just like I don't know, just a very potentially Lou Reed thing to do, but
It's his Black Star, is what you're saying.
it's his Black Star, I guess. Yeah.
So let's
Um,
take a quick step back and talk maybe a little bit about any prior experience that you had with Lou Reed or Metallica. Like listening to your music, I get a sense that if either of them were influential on you, it would have been more Lou Reed than Metallica. However, I feel like there's a good chance that any kind of adolescent male that came of age after the Black Album had a Metallica phase. So, did you have a Metallica phase?
I did, and it's exactly what you said. I think it's kind of synced up with the new metal, middle school, Jenkos, Limp Bizkit, Korn era, but then kind of all the offshoots. But then, yeah, I think Metallica sort of seeped in around that time when I was really into whatever that shit was. And it didn't really last very long. Like I think it was exclusively the Black Album, and then getting into guitar and learning the Enter Sandman riff, which I learned back then and never forgot. But not really into it, except for that brief period a long time ago.
How about Lou? Are you a Lou fan or
Oh, I mean, yeah, Velvet Underground, one of my favorite bands ever, and then Lou Reed, all of the solo stuff. As a writer, as a you know, an icon, as a cultural figure. I mean, all of it super important to me, and has been pretty consistently. So yeah, it's that's what's funny about it too. It's like this band that I really don't like, and then you know one of the top probably influential people coming together is pretty interesting.
I can imagine it would be like today hearing that Dylan was putting out a record with Imagine Dragons or something.
Exactly.
So, do you remember the first time you heard that this was coming? Like, were you anticipating this at all? Or do you remember the first time you heard the record?
I was thinking about this before we did this because I figured it would probably come up, and I do not remember. I definitely didn't know that it was coming. it was something that I got into after it was already out for a bunch of years. I remember hearing that it existed. Like Lou Reed and Metallica made an album for a bunch of years before I actually listened to it. But I really don't know. I don't remember the first time, and I don't know why, but I'm very glad. Yeah.
So you've kind of touched upon the fact that it's more of a comedy record to you, but it has also maybe evolved beyond that to actual, what level of actual enjoyment is there? Is it a joyous occasion putting this on?
No, not at all. I actually put it on this morning to brush up a little bit, and Kiara's like, "You got to put headphones on or turn this shit off." I was like, it's, and I was listening to it through my phone, which makes it even more unlistenable. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's a comedy record for me, which, like I said, kind of has infiltrated daily life. Like even in our vocabulary, like when Dylan and I were playing together, the song Pumping Blood, like some of the lyrics from that song and just the word pump became like a part of our daily vocabulary. So it's a comedy record that sort of goes beyond and becomes a daily part of your life separate from the music.
So let's talk a little bit about the backstory of the record. Apparently, Lou Reed and Metallica play a Neil Young benefit together in like 1997, and then they cross paths again. I think in 2009 it was a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction. I think is when the real seeds were planted for this. And then I don't the whole Lulu story is based on two plays by a German playwright, Earth Spirit and Pandora's Box, which I guess I've never seen the plays or anything like that, but from what I gather, are about this dancer that kind of rises through the ranks of society by sleeping with men and is eventually kind of discarded. And there's all kinds of, prostitution and sexual violence and moral depravity involved. And there's a lot of that on this record as well. It's a brutal lyrical record. I think really Lou Reed is not holding back at all.
No.
And so from that angle, looking at it through that lens, Metallica kind of makes sense. It's kind of their performance on this record is very just kind of like blunt force, like no nuance, just
So bad, yeah.
yeah. So I guess you could argue that maybe artistically he got to what he was aiming to get at.
That's a very good point. Uh, it's funny to think about this as a sort of intellectual concept that Lou Reed was seeing through in a genuine way. Because then, yeah, I mean, lyrically, getting a band like Metallica, I mean, when you think about it like that, it actually does seem really curated. I think the problem is that my interest level in all of that is so little that you just take it on like for like surface value. It's just fucking ridiculous. Uh, which is probably not the intention, but I bet a lot of people heard this and they find humor in it.
So
Um,
that's kind of where I was going with my next question is like, why then, if he's if you start with the assumption that that is the goal, why then is it so funny to so many people? Like, where does it miss the mark?
uh, well, Metallica's performance is terrible on this. The drumming is just the music itself is awful pretty much throughout. And really abrasive. But I think a lot of it probably is lyrically just hearing some of these lines said with a lot of conviction, which we could go through and maybe we will at some point, the lyric sheet. There's just some lines that are just insane on this record. But I don't know. I guess maybe it's for just a very specific group of people that find the humor in it. The only people that I know that even know this record are also musicians, so it must be something with that where you can kind of like peel back the layers and understand it from that standpoint about like all the intricacies of why this feels like a joke and make fun of it. Also going back to the Guitar Center thing, I mean, that's also kind of like a musician's inside joke. So yeah, I guess it's probably not funny for everybody. Um, but I definitely think that it is. It's just all of it. It's just like the perfect alchemy.
For me, I think there's such a detachment between Metallica and Lou Reed. And like they have this heaviness to their sound, even though it's very clunky and rudimentary, their performance here. It's still heavy. So I
Mhm.
think if someone was growling these lyrics or giving kind of like a metal performance, it might make more sense. But having Lou speak
Mm.
singing,
Yeah. Right.
and you said he has conviction, but maybe, but it's not intense enough to match what he's saying.
Right. And then well, yeah, because Lou Reed's delivery is always so nonchalant and sarcastic, so you can never tell the line between what's serious. But I think maybe that's what's funny about it is like when James Hetfield will come in and sing something, he has so much conviction, and maybe that's where the humor comes in because there's that part where you're like, Lou Reed probably directed James Hetfield to do it this way to just look and sound like a fucking complete idiot. Uh, I am the table. I am the like just like the where Lou Reed could get away with pretty much saying anything and make it sound cool and maybe like, oh, he's fucking around. So that's it too. Maybe it's the James Hetfield that brings a lot of the humor to it. Because I find myself and Dylan and like friends and others like are quoting a lot of his lines, and it's a lot of it has to do with his delivery. So yeah.
Yeah, there's some of that, but he doesn't sing that much on the record. There's a
No, no.
bunch of songs that he's not on at all, I believe.
But they're
Yeah.
true gems when he does come in.
So like the opposite side of that coin, like if you can imagine this record having like a growling type of metal vocalist, do you think there's also a way with a different band that this record could have made more sense?
Oh wow. I mean, I think if Lou Reed did it with his band or if the Velvet Underground did it, it would actually be cool and make a lot of sense. Um, but I see what you're saying too, where if Metallica was the band and there was a metal vocalist screaming so that the words were more indecipherable, it would probably make more sense as well. Yeah,
Should we get into a little bit of a track by track thing here?
definitely.
So
Definitely.
you already alluded to the opening of the record, Brandenburg Gates. By the way, have you ever looked at Lyric Genius and and
No,
seen
but I should
the
right now.
annotations on there?
I have not, but
Some pretty funny stuff. People trying to get real deep on this, talking about Nazis and all kinds of stuff that was going on in the time of Lulu.
gotcha.
But you mentioned it opens with the acoustic guitar, and that first line on the record is really something.
Mm-hmm.
I would cut my legs and tits off, and then head filled with the small town girl. Just he said, how many times does he say small town girl? Have you ever counted?
God, no, but
It's a lot.
it's a lot. It's way too many. It's just it's like they like wound him up and and he just never stopped. Probably at the end of the recording, like, okay, you can stop screaming small town girl now. You've done it 150 times. Oh man. It's perfect. It's the perfect start to an album. We went to the Brandenburg Gate when we were on tour in Germany, and of course, we listened to the song at the Brandenburg Gate, which like that's another part of how this record saturates our actual life. It dictates where we go and what kind of tourism that we do. Yeah.
So then you get into the next track, The View.
Yep.
This is one of the most plotting tracks, I think, from Metallica, at least. Drums are very bad on it. The kick drum feels late every time almost. I don't know what's going on with it.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
And this is the I Am the Table song as well.
It's so good. I am the root. I am the progress. It's just, oh God, it's too good to be true.
And I Want to See Your Suicide. I Want
Mhm.
to See You Give It Up is a pretty uncomfortable moment from Lou Reed.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then we get into the third track, Pumping Blood, which has some more lyrical gems. If I waggle my ass like a dark prostitute.
hmm
It also features the amazing moment, maybe the weirdest, honestly, the weirdest moment on the whole record when he says, "Come on, James," where it's the only time on the record where he kind of breaks character and
Mm-hmm.
stops. It's so unusual.
Yeah, yeah. The breakdown, like the off the pump, off the thing, my coagulating heart. This song, this is the one that was the most influential inside joke in terms like we used to go into this riff during shows back a few years ago when we were like peak level into this album. The vocal performance and some of the lines in this song are just the best, the best, the best the record has to offer.
I think the drumming on it's actually not bad. There's some cool drumming on that track. Track 4, Mistress Dread. This is kind of like the super fast breakneck, let Metallica loose a little bit. Not
Mhm.
quite as plodding, a little bit speedier. It's weird though because Lou's cadence is still super slow. He's not trying to keep up with the band at all. So there's like even more of a disconnect on this track.
Yep, yep, yep. This is uh this is like kind of a skip for me. Like I think beyond the first time I listened to this record, which was all the way through, I do remember that it was while driving. But usually like every listen after that, it's been like Brandenburg Gate, The View, Pumping Blood, and then we usually probably skip this one.
This has the little verse about I opened the sticks, sticky legs, insert a fist, lost appendage.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Lovely.
should
Really
probably put
lovely.
like a parental advisory on this podcast episode.
Probably.
Then we get into my favorite track on the record, Iced Honey, which has a little bit of a groove happening on it. And the riff is kind of cool too. The intervals that they're playing, I think, might potentially be a little bit of a nod to Walk on the Wild Side. The guitar riff is
Oh,
almost the bass line.
wow. Yeah. You can't put a butterfly in a jar if violence mars your final hour, if you make others feel like jam poured on a piece of charbroiled lamb.
The way he says jam is really great too. He says jam.
Jam.
And then
Oh,
you have Hetfield, see if the ice will melt for you. He's kind of repeating that over and over again, which is kind of his MO on this record is to have one line and say it a million times.
yep, yep. Oh God.
All right. After that, we get into Cheat on Me. This one's kind of a long, slow one, a little bit more sparse. Even when it builds up, Metallica is just kind of chugging on the same chord. Not a lot happening here. Kind of a boring track for me.
Yeah, this is another kind of skip for me. He also says the same line. Why do I cheat on me or whatever, like 1,000 times.
Yeah, why do you cheat on me? Why do I cheat on thee? Like, is that the level? Like, the only argument really for this record is that like you're this poet and you're going down these dark tunnels, right? You're taking us to some place that no other lyricist takes us, and then you come up with that
Hmm.
couplet, which is so lazy.
I know. I know. It's the great mystery of Lou.
Then we get the showstopper, frustration.
Yeah.
The lyrics on this, I mean, we say that on every track, maybe, but truly, this one is pretty remarkable. A lot of wild decisions on this track, I think. Uh,
Yeah, this
so we can get into some of the lyrics, but there are moments on this song where he starts singing to the tune of Miss Mary Mac, which I think is really weird. When he says, I feel the pain creep up my leg.
Yo, that is observational. I never picked up on that.
He does it in another spot too, but yeah, it's to be singing some of the lyrics that he's singing on this dry and spermless like a girl right up against that kind of nursery rhyme tune. Doesn't
Yeah,
make any sense.
to be dry and spermless like a girl. I want so much to hurt you. I want so much to hurt you. Marry me. I want you as my wife.
I wish that I could kill you, but I too love your eyes.
Yes. Yeah, really dancing the line between the light and the dark. Lou really in capturing the feeling of love in this song.
I
And
puke my
it's
guts out at your feet.
I want you as my wife. I want you as my wife, spermless like a girl. I mean,
You should probably, hearing you do that, you should probably just like cover the entire record and put it out.
I, I thank you. I've been waiting for the encouragement.
Yeah.
At least like a there should be a Broadway performance of this record.
Oh,
That
for
would
sure.
be really fun to be Lou Reed in that situation. Um, and be able to just get away with saying this shit for 40 minutes. Yeah, this one's insane. This is like psychopath love song.
That kind of brings up a good point about this record. It's like it's hard to know how much we're giving Lou Reed a pass because he's Lou Reed, or are we just not open enough to what he's like? Is he the genius and we are struggling to accept what he's presenting, or is it the opposite? Is Lou Reed kind of full of shit here? And it's hard to know on this record.
Feels more like that to me. Um, I guess that's the thing too, is that he really was at a is and was at a point where he could do whatever he wanted. So I think he's using that license for sure. It's like Metal Machine music. I mean, we've seen examples of where he's just like, I'm gonna do whatever I want. I'm Lou Reed, so people are gonna just allow me to fuck around and do whatever I feel. And I think that yeah, he just kind of used that to its maximum, and then he pieced out.
The next track, we got Little Dog. This is another I guess disgusting track. The whole song, we could just read the entire lyrics to this one.
Yeah.
Pretty bad.
I'm trying to pick out some. Yeah, it's I don't even.
I don't even really want to say it, but the as long as you can raise that little doggy face to a cold-hearted pussy, you could have a taste.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's
Puny body and a tiny dick.
it's not okay.
A little dog can make you sick.
If anything, if there was to be some sort of credit artistically, he really found a way to capture that super grotesque, which I don't know the story behind. Like, I guess the you said it's a play, a German play.
Yeah, it's based on two plays.
Based on what you said, it sounds like it's pretty grotesque, and I feel like the way the lyricism, especially and especially reading this, like that kind of no holds barred situation, um, probably does a better job of capturing like the really grotesque, brutal experience of this character than it would be if it was more subtle. So, props to him on that, I guess. Like he made an uncomfortable thing extremely uncomfortable.
All right, then we get into some like long tracks here at the end. You got Dragon, which is 11 minutes. And he's talking about books and tables again. Uh, he also says the taste of your vulva, everything on it.
Cool. Very, very,
Cool.
very
Good stuff. And then you get Junior Dad at the end, 19 plus minutes. This one is very different from the rest of the record. Almost has like a ballady kind of feel. And allegedly, this song made Kirk Hammett and James Hetfield both break down in tears in the studio. They both had to leave the control room crying because of the lovely poetry of Lou Reed.
Wow. I wonder if that was the first time they've ever felt emotions.
No, I think
Dad.
with all their therapy that they've been doing, I think they're just like mush. Anything happens and they just cry.
Of course. It's all right. Yeah, it's all at the brim. I mean, this one's kind of a break in the brutalism, and maybe there is a little bit of sentimental, you know, conclusion, I guess. Would you come to me if I was half drowning, an arm above the last wave? Would you pull me up? Would the effort really hurt you? Yeah, this is kind of like the rubble has the dust has cleared and the rubble of the whole record, and it's like, oh, Let's have something a little sweet, maybe a little emotional to close it out. Junior Dad.
which I think would be a great thing to close the record on kind of a more positive note. But why is it 19 minutes long?
Why would
Like,
it be?
can't you give us anything? You have to make it like this like unsufferable
Right. Of course.
thing. Yeah, I don't know why.
We have to earn. I don't think I can't even tell you if I've made it all the way through that. Um, maybe no one ever has. Maybe that's the point.
It's about 11 minutes of actual song, and then you've got like kind of just like strings and things droning at the end for 8 minutes.
Such art. Such art.
So that's the record. And again, I it's like it's interesting. I think there's a deeper conversation around this record about like what is art and what is legitimate. And I'm talking to someone else for a future episode of this about an outsider artist. So, and I think this is kind of Lou Reed's not entirely an outsider artist. He certainly had success in the mainstream, but it has kind of that. It brings up the same questions as like the Shags and people like that. So I don't know. For me, I can see maybe artistic validity, but do I want to ever listen to it? Do I enjoy listening to it? I do not.
No, no, I agree. Except for the first three songs, the bangers. Um,
But to the point of like why you're on this show and why you're talking about it is because it has brought to you some kind of enjoyment.
yeah, I mean, for way too long, I think at this point, the fact that it still comes up. One of my friends, Eric Slick, is a fellow like kind of obsessed with this record. You know, it's usually grounds for most of the times that we talk. You know, we'll we'll just text pictures like a picture of a sign that says pump, referencing pumping blood. You know, so as terrible of an album, you know, it brings people together. It's strengthened friendships. It's cultivated years of inside jokes. It's impacted tourism and sightseeing while on tour. You know, it's provided a lot of great things aside from being, yeah, pretty unlistenable. I think
And
the benefits outweigh the cons.
brings people together. If it brings Lou Reed and Metallica together, if they can make it work, which maybe they can't, then anyone can.
Exactly. And that is the true message. It's about friendship and yeah, yeah, friendship.
Well, thanks again for taking the time to do this. Do you want to plug your stuff one more time? Maybe have people follow your socials or whatever you want to say here at the end.
Yeah, I don't know. If you listen to Lulu and like it, um, you know, I think that what we do is like right. Oh, hold on. Siri. Siri heard me and started playing. No, I don't need you to play Lulu by Lou Reed and Metallica. Anyway, yes, new record coming out March 3rd. We're gonna be touring all over. Maybe we'll try to hit the Brandenburg Gate again just to kind of re-up uh in homage. And yeah, I'm on all the social media being annoying because it's record time at Ron Gallo. And come to a show. And if you happen to listen to this record because of this, let's talk about it in real life.
Sounds good. Make sure you follow Ron, uh, comment, rate, whatever you do with podcasts, do it to this one. And thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. And we'll see you in the next one.